Mama, I am your daughter as well, oh.
Shut up your dirty mouth!
Agatha. Some persons are not what's called a mother. How will you give birth to 2 children, twins for that matter, and decide to choose one over the other? This story is a very emotional story. I want you to watch and see for yourself what happened.
Imagine being born just 3 minutes before your twin sister. 3 minutes. Not 3 years, not 3 decades, 3 minutes. Now imagine that those 3 minutes, those 180 seconds, became the excuse your own mother used to destroy your entire future. Imagine watching your twin sister walk to school in a fresh, pressed uniform, while you stood over a hot fire, frying bean cakes in the dark, your tears mixing with the smoke that filled your lungs every single morning. Imagine doing all of that willingly because you loved your family.
And then, imagine the day you finally discovered that the same family you sacrificed everything for was secretly plotting to take away the one thing that could have changed your life forever. This is not a fairy tale. And I promise you, by the time this video ends, you will never look at sacrifice the same way again. Stay with me, because this one is going to hurt before it heals.
It was a Tuesday morning, and the smell of wood smoke and hot oil already hung heavy over the small compound in a bustling Nigerian suburb. The kind of morning that tells you, before you even open your eyes, that life is going to demand everything from you today. Agatha, 45 years old, sharp-faced, draped in a bright blue and yellow Ankara wrapper, stood over a large black frying pan like a general commanding a battlefield. Her face had the kind of hardness you don't get from a bad day. You get that look from years of choosing bitterness over mercy. And from that same house, 2 18-year-old girls came rushing out. Identical faces, identical features, but completely different worlds. The first was Martha, glowing, uniform, crisp and clean, her smile the kind that rooms make space for. The second was Mary, her uniform slightly more faded, neatly patched at the shoulder, but her eyes held something her twins did not. Depth, quiet strength, the kind of soul that has already learned how to carry weight without complaining. Agatha's face transformed the moment she saw Martha. She reached into her wrapper and pulled out 500 naira, smooth and deliberate, like she had been holding it there just for her favorite child. "My star girl," she said, "eat well so your brain can open." And then Mary, the firstborn, the elder by 3 minutes, stretched out her hand, quietly, hopefully, and Agatha's face turned to stone. "You? Did you not just swallow 2 bowls of akara and pap? You are the senior. Learn to sacrifice. I don't have money to throw away on 2 stomachs." Now, I need you to pause here with me for a second. This woman just told her child, her own flesh and blood, that being born first was a punishment, that the reward for seniority was hunger. And Mary? She didn't shout, she didn't argue. She just looked at her mother, swallowed the rejection like it was her morning meal, took her sister's hand and said, "Let's go, sister. God will provide." If that doesn't break your heart, check your pulse. But the morning wasn't done with Mary yet. Their father, Papa, a quiet, frayed man whose dignity had been chipped away piece by piece like old paint on a wall, emerged from the house. He had heard everything. He tried. He really did. Then he said, "Agatha, why must you always treat Mary like a stranger in her own father's house?" But Agatha turned that frying spoon into a weapon. She screamed about his unemployment. She mocked his empty pockets. She told him the only thing he was good for was sitting in the parlor and eating her pap. And Papa, he just looked down. His silence wasn't weakness, people. It was the silence of a man who has lost every argument before he opens his mouth. He picked up his bowl of pap and he went back inside. Now, here is where things go from hard to cruel. 3 weeks later, their teacher, Mrs. Rose, stood in front of the class like someone delivering a verdict. WAEC registration closes soon. 60,000 naira. No money, no exam. No exam, no future. 60,000 naira. For one child, it was stress. For this family, it was a choice. And guess who made that choice? That evening, the twins came home and delivered the news. The silence in that living room was the kind that presses against your eardrums. And then Agatha spoke. Calm, cold, final. I have decided. Martha will write the exam. Mary, you will drop out. You will fry akara at the junction and help me save money for your sister's future. Papa roared. For the first time in years, something inside him broke free. Over my dead body. You want to kill the dreams of your firstborn? And what followed was not a conversation. It was a collapse. Screaming, pushing, chairs tumbling, a family tearing itself apart at the seams. And right in the middle of it all, Mary threw herself between her parents, crying, begging, "Stop! It's okay! I will stop school! Just don't kill yourselves because of me!" And Agatha, this woman, had the audacity to look at her daughter standing there in tears, protecting the family that had just destroyed her dreams, and call her a bad head child. She said Mary's sacrifice was proof she was a burden. I want you to remember that moment, because the day will come when Agatha will need that same daughter she called a burden, and what she gets in return will be exactly what she planted. But if you thought Agatha was the only villain in this story, wait until you hear what happened later that night. Mary was on the floor of their shared bedroom, sobbing softly, the weight of a future she would never have pressing down on her 18-year-old shoulders. And Martha walked in. Mary looked up at her twin, the sister she had protected since they were babies, the sister she was now sacrificing her entire life for, and said, "I'm doing this for you, Martha, so you can be a doctor." And Martha laughed. Not a nervous laugh, not an uncomfortable laugh. A cold, mocking, deliberate laugh. "Doing it for me? Mary, I beg, shift. You rushed to come out of the womb first. You thought being senior was a prize? See your life now. You will fry the akara and smell like smoke and oil, while I wear a lab coat." The bedroom went very quiet, and Mary stared at her twin sister, the girl who shared her face, her blood, and for the first time in 17 years, she saw a stranger looking back at her. Months passed, and Mary's life became the fire. Every morning, before the sun was fully awake, she was already at the outdoor kitchen, her hands stained with bean batter, her hair smelling of smoke, her back aching from hours of bending over a pot. While Agatha made sure Martha's uniform was spotless, her pap was sweetened, her path to school was clear of everything that might slow her down, including the big sister standing right there, frying the food that paid for it all. One morning, Martha reached lazily for a piece of akara on her way out, and Agatha, who had not once told Veronica well done, not once offered her a word of encouragement, slapped Martha's hand away gently and told Martha to go inside the house, that her elder sister Mary will come and serve her. Then she turned and shouted at Mary to stop serving customers and go inside to serve her sister first. A waiting customer stood in the sun, watching. And Agatha looked at the neighbors and said, proudly, "That is how it's done. Mary, you came out first, so you are the pillar." The pillar. Not the daughter, not the firstborn, the pillar. As in, the thing you build on top of, the thing that holds the weight, the thing that nobody looks at because they're too busy admiring what's standing on it. 3 months later, Martha ran into the compound waving a computer printout, screaming so loud the neighbors came out. She had passed her WAEC. Distinctions, credits. Agatha lifted her daughter like she weighed nothing, screaming praises to God, shoving the results in Papa's face, as proof that her cruelty had been wisdom all along. Papa said quietly, Mary would have passed too. She was the one helping Martha with her homework. Agatha didn't even blink. She called for the kolo, the family savings, and began planning Martha's university wardrobe. That savings, every single naira of it, had been earned by Mary's hands. Her sweat, her sleepless mornings, her burnt fingers. And Mary stood in the doorway, watching. She smiled at her sister, and a single tear rolled down her face. She didn't wipe it quickly. She didn't hide it. She just let it fall. Because sometimes tears are not weakness. Sometimes they are the only honest thing left. Now, here is where the story takes a turn. The following day, Mary was hawking on a dusty roadside, tray on her head, neck strained, face dusted with flour,
when a young man in a simple white t-shirt and jeans stopped her. His name was Mavis, 25 years old, kind eyes, gentle energy. He bought 4 akara and 2 bread. And then he did something nobody had done for Mary in a very long time. He looked at her. Not through her, not past her, at her. "You look too bright-eyed to be carrying this load," he said. "What happened to your school?" And Mary, who had swallowed her story so many times it had become a scar inside her chest, let it out. She told him everything. He listened. He didn't flinch. He didn't offer her pity dressed up as sympathy. He said he was struggling too, that he wished he could hand her the 60,000 naira right then and there, but he couldn't. And then he said, "Don't lose hope. God sees you."
5 words from a stranger. 5 words that meant more to Mary than every meal she had ever cooked for people who never thanked her. She gave him something too in return. A smile, real and unguarded, and quietly, without thinking, she accepted the small silver bracelet he pressed into her palm. A promise, he called it, a symbol of a conversation he didn't want to forget. She put it on her wrist. She never took it off. But of course, Martha had to walk by, with her friends, in her new stylish dress, looking like money that wasn't hers to spend. She saw her sister talking to Mavis, and instead of walking past, she stopped, opened her mouth, and poured acid. She called Mary a hawker of her body. She mocked Mavis's simple clothes. She told her friends, loud enough for everyone to hear, that this place smells of poverty and cheap romance. And she walked away with her friends laughing. That evening, Agatha grabbed Mary's ear at the gate and twisted it, screaming, threatening, accusing. Mary cried out in pain, and nobody came to help her. Now, I need you to pay close to this, the part of the story where the villains make their biggest mistake. A few days after Mavis's visit to the roadside, a sleek black car pulled into the compound. Mavis, in a crisp senator suit, polished, wealthy. He had come looking for the girl who sold him akara. Agatha's eyes went wide, greedy, calculating. She looked at Mavis, then she looked at Martha, and a plan was born in the space of 3 seconds. Martha wanted him. Then Agatha told Mavis that Mary is not at home, that she has gone to fetch firewood, so Mavis left to promise to call back for Mary. Agatha saw an opportunity. Agatha and Martha both decided, together, casually, like it was a simple shopping decision, to erase Mary and replace her with Martha. Then Agatha told her beloved daughter Martha and said, "I will dress you in Mary's name. After all, you both are identical twins, so Mavis won't notice." What they did not know, what they could not see, was that Mary was standing behind the curtain, and she heard every single word. She didn't scream. She didn't confront them. She just stood there, one eye visible through the gap in the faded fabric, her heart hammering like it was trying to escape her chest. And she whispered to herself, "Mama, you stole my school. You stole my childhood. And now you want to steal my name." Agatha and Martha executed their plan with enthusiasm. They dressed Martha in expensive fabric bought with Akara money. They bought her a wig. They coached her on how to walk softer, talk gentler, to move like Mary. Mavis arrived, and for a while it seemed to be working. He took Martha, believing she was Mary, for a drive. He talked to her about books, about conversations they'd had, about the fire she had in her eyes when she spoke about the future. And Martha smiled and nodded and tried her absolute best. But here's the thing about a real person. You cannot perform them. Mavis kept frowning, kept pausing. Something was off, in her answers, in her energy, in the way she looked at his car instead of his face. And then he asked, quietly, calmly, like a man laying a trap, "Mary, where is the bracelet I gave you that day at the junction?" The blood drained from Martha's face. She didn't know about the bracelet. She made an excuse. She would wear it tomorrow. It was put away safely. She forgot it in the rush. And Mavis nodded slowly and said nothing more. That night, panic descended on the house like a thunderstorm. Martha dragged Agatha into the room and they tore it apart. Pillows, mattresses, textbooks, bags, searching desperately for a bracelet that was never theirs to find, because Mary was wearing it. She had never taken it off.
not while frying akara, not while hawking in the sun, not while washing iron pots with soot under her fingernails. It sat on her wrist, small and silver, the only thing in her life that no one had been able to take. Yet. The afternoon Mavis came back was the afternoon the life finally ran out of road.
He was in the compound with Mata, and Mata, emboldened by his continued presence, was preening, laughing, already imagining herself in a mansion. And then Mary walked in, returning early, forgotten something, tray in hand. She stopped. She saw Mavis. Her mouth formed his name before her brain could stop it. Mavis? And Mavis, the man who had smiled at her under a tree when nobody else had, turned around. Everything unraveled in under 60 seconds. The accusations, the denials, Agatha screaming, Mata shrinking, and Mary, this girl who had been told her whole life that she was a burden, a bad head, a sacrifice, a pillar no one needed to thank, pulled back her sleeve. The silver bracelet caught the light like it had been waiting for this exact moment. You asked for the bracelet, Mavis. You gave it to the girl who didn't care if you were poor. Here it is. I never took it off, even while I was sweating over the fire they forced me to serve. Mavis sank to his knees in the dirt. Expensive trousers, dusty compound. He didn't care. He apologized. He begged. And Mary who had loved without condition, who had given without measure, who had carried a family that treated her like furniture, looked at him with eyes like still water. You left me for her. I don't need your money, and I don't need you. Go. This, lovelies, is what grace actually looks like. Not weakness, not performance, not a speech. Just a woman standing in her own truth, with a bracelet on her wrist, and nowhere left to be ashamed of anything. Papa walked out of the house. For the first time in years, his shoulders were straight. He said, Mary, my daughter, forgive the young man. It's not his fault. Your wicked mother and sister is to be blamed. They tried to cut you out. And Mary looked at her father, the quiet, broken man who had tried and failed and tried again. And she took his hand, and she got into Mavis's car, and she left.
2 weeks later, a massive gate, a mansion, a gate man who had been given very specific instructions. Agatha and Martha arrived, hungry, wretched, their wrappers faded, their pride in the dust. They banged on the iron bars. They wailed. They threw themselves on the ground. And a gold-colored car rolled out through the gate. The window came down. Mary sat in the back, draped in expensive lace, her father beside her, looking healthier than he had in years. Agatha screamed, begged, promised to fry the akara herself. Just let us in. And Mary looked at the two people who had called her a burden, stolen her name, twisted her ear, and burned her future. And she said, quiet as a morning prayer, I don't know you people. I only see two strangers blocking my driveway. The car moved, the puddle splashed, and the gate closed. Papa had moved on. With the monthly income given to him by Mary, he had a new life. A woman who respected him. Peace, simple and hard-earned. Agatha and Martha would sat on a tattered mat in the corner, drinking watery gari with no sugar all day, and Aslo, doing the work they had once assigned to the daughter they called a burden. Months passed. And one night, in a dark room, with the smell of regret thick in the air, Agatha took her last breath. She died in the same poverty she had tried to escape through wickedness. Martha called Mary, sobbing, and Mary, who had every reason to scream, to curse, to celebrate, simply said, You reap what you sow, Martha. Bury her with the Ankara she loved so much. Never call this number again. The line went dead. And somewhere in a beautiful house,
with a view of a city lit up like a constellation, Mary sat in front of a glass window, not crying, not bitter, just free.
So, here is what I want to leave you with today. Mary never asked to be born first. She never asked to be the sacrifice. She never asked for the fire, the smoke, the hawking tray, or the twisted ear. What she did ask for, every day, quietly, in the steam of a frying pot, was to be seen. And the world eventually answered. It always does. So if you are the Mary in your family, if you are the one carrying the load that nobody thanks you for, the one being called a burden by the very people your love is holding together, I need you to hear this. Your seed is not lost. Your fire is not invisible. Your name cannot be borrowed forever. The bracelet will always come back to the wrist it belongs on. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, because we have more stories like this coming your way. Until next time, watch your back, protect your peace, and never let anyone call you a burden for being the one who loves the hardest. Take care of yourselves.